Ray Vassar. He's going to be going over our diversity and harassment training. Yeah, so if you give him your attention, he's a good speaker. If you have any questions, speak up.
All right, thanks. I like the short introductions. Today we're going to go through for the next 2 hours. We're going to go through this training, but I want you to, your noggin's going to get twisted a little bit this morning because it's not what you think it's going to be. Okay? We're going to talk about the basics, which is the law, so you understand the law. That's the simple part. Okay? But really, how does all this come about? Okay, from a diversity and harassment standpoint. The reason why diversity is mixed into this, you got to understand diversity because it leads to harassment in the workplace. They're both directly correlated. If you don't truly understand diversity, this is how you encounter issues working with other employees, customers, people who come on site. We're going to talk about those slippery slopes today and your responsibility as an employee. And the whole goal of this session today is to protect you, number one, and protect the company you work for. Okay? And that's very, very important because the two obviously tie together. As an employee, you have a responsibility according to the law, but also to this company, you have a responsibility. Why? Because it pays your paycheck every day. Okay? And so we're going to talk about those things. And we're going to talk about how you can be successful as an employee here at Affordable Heating and Cooling and 5-Star Plumbing. I'm sure we have a combination of both in the room today. Okay. I've known Brian for quite a while. I have my own consulting firm, as well as I'm a consultant for a major corporation here in Eastern Iowa that I work for as well. And so I've done this really all over the country. And I was just sharing with a couple guys who were just at my house doing an install for me. You guys all heard of Krispy Kreme? Remember those donuts? You don't see them anymore, do you? $10 million lawsuit. I was their consultant. Okay? This stuff is serious. That's why you don't see them in the stores anymore. Okay? This stuff happens. The average settlement for harassment and diversity, discrimination of any type in the workplace is $250,000. That's the average. Okay? The EEOC, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, anybody know what that stands for? Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They just budgeted $23 additional million last year to beef up litigation. $23 million. So they're putting more funds behind prosecuting people who break the law, companies who break the law. Krispy Kreme is just one example. Okay, they hired me in a reactatory situation, sent me down to Arizona. I was appalled by what was going on in their organization, and I'm their consultant. And I will be able to take the witness stand in the court of law for Affordable Heating and Cooling and 5-Star Plumbing if I'm called upon in the case. Because what the EEOC looks for is what has Affordable Heating and Cooling done to prevent this stuff from happening in the workplace. And I can be a testimony to what this company has done to take preventive measures to properly equip, properly instruct their employee base when this stuff happens, what they should be doing in adherence to the law. That's just one example. I'm going to give you a few more, but that's just one. And that's a popular. I love their donuts, full of sugar. If you wanted to get a rush, you just go eat some donuts. On the front, I'll show you how we're going to do this. I hope everybody has a pen because I don't like doing the flashy presentations because I like you to take notes, okay? Because I want you to understand this in your own vernacular, your own terms, okay, as we define these things, so I want you to take notes. Each page you have a slide, but you have lines under those slides where you can write down and take notes. So our objectives for this workshop: identify the various types of diversity and harassment, understand the law. It's going to take about 2 minutes, and we're going to refer to that throughout the course of our session. Your organization's policy, we'll do that at the end of this session. Understand the various sources of harassment. Learn what you should do. What is your responsibility if you ever witness harassment? And by definition, a hostile work environment. It's not just about harassment, it's about a hostile work environment. And learn what action you should take to preserve a respectful work environment here at Affordable Heating and Cooling and 5-Star Plumbing. So those are our objectives, what we're going to try and achieve today with your input. This is going to be interactive. We're going to do some exercises so you guys aren't just sitting or listening to me talk. Okay? And then we'll conclude, obviously, with any questions. I'll challenge you a little bit because I want it to be interactive. So I'm going to ask you some questions. You're going to give me some input. Let's talk about the law. We'll move through this pretty fast. Title VII, the Civil Rights Act, defines that every person has a legal right. This was enacted in 1964. It was changed again in 1991. It was amended to strengthen the whole act. But we're going to talk about this because, read this carefully. It says Civil Rights Act. Society has changed. It's now become the human rights. Civil versus human, two different things. Defines that, but here the Civil Rights Act defines that every person has a legal right to work in an environment free from harassment, irregardless of race, age, gender, national origin, religion, sexual harassment, sexual orientation, and creed. Iowa, several years ago, just adopted the sexual orientation law. As you can tell, if you keep an eye on the news, you see why. Okay? Same-sex marriage, all sorts of things, okay, that are happening in our society. 43 out of the 50 states are beginning to adopt a sexual orientation, so you cannot persecute a person based on their sexual preference. That's huge. And creed. That's the law, okay? Simply put, that's the law.
okay.
And so we're going to refer back to the Title VII Act, okay, often throughout the session. So you can see the application of when you see things happening in the workplace and how this applies. Everything from, how many of you guys like to tell jokes? We're going to talk about that too. However, I want to kind of give you the disclaimer up front that, guys, we don't want you to walk on eggshells after today. We just want to create an awareness and give you tools in your toolbox. Hint, hint, tools, toolbox, get it? For you guys to, understand that when these things occur in the workplace, you know how to handle it. With a fellow employee, coworker, boss, okay, customer, etc. All right? The act was created and it applies to any company who has 15 or more employees. Obviously you guys meet that because you're way over that, okay, and growing, all right? And so this is the law. If you notice, our society has become more and more diverse, hasn't it? More women in the workplace, more minorities in the workplace, and it's going to continue that way, okay? Right now, the Caucasian is becoming in minority, believe it or not. Okay? That's going out the window. Why? Because by the I'd say 2050-ish, I don't plan on being here, but if I am. By 2050, the Hispanic population will have tripled. The Asian population will have tripled here in America. The black population will double. Okay? The Indian population will double. So where does that leave us? At the bottom of the food chain, if you will. So it's becoming increasingly diverse, okay? And what you guys establish here in your organization is really about, I would define it as culture, is the term. You have a certain culture here within your organization that you guys all function within. And we're going to define that in reference to defining diversity. And then once we understand that, we'll connect the dots to how hostile work environments are created, how harassment happens in the workplace, etc. So, anybody can be a victim under the law, okay? Last year alone, $101.2 million in settlements was enacted according to the EEOC. Jacqueline Bryan, who's the head of the EEOC, vows more pressure on employers and employees who break the law. Okay? It's going to continue. And so how you sit in the midst of this is critical in how you respond to issues and situations that come up, because you will encounter them if you haven't already. Okay? You will see them in your work environment, unfortunately. Okay? That's not a bad thing. That's nothing against affordable heating and 5-star, but it happens. Things happen. But how we respond becomes critical. So that's the law. Okay? Next page. See how easy that was? To understand the law, first we're going to talk about diversity. When you think of diversity, what comes to your mind?
Different people.
Different people. Can I move this thing? It's not heavy, so. Different people. What else?
Different cultures,
What kind of different cultures?
religious.
Religious. I'll say religion. Okay, what else?
Sexes. Male, female.
Don't take that personally. Okay, sexes. Sex. What else? Economic. Good one. Okay, what else?
Race.
Race. That's a good one. How about age? Actually, when you say sexist, I'm going to say gender. What else? I know it's early.
National. Creed.
National origin?
Sexual orientation.
Yeah, obviously. The obvious ones. Okay. How about things we don't think of? Height. Weight. Are you guys all the same? Why not? Brought up different. Did somebody say culture earlier? Background? How about social status? We don't all have the same social status, do we? Economic status? We're all different. Not everybody has the same numbers in their bank account. Okay? However, the obvious things that you guys mentioned come from what I would call a certain tier of diversity, where all of our society has a tendency to focus. You mentioned religion, sexes, gender, race, age, national origin, sexual orientation, cultural background. Okay? Those are some of the basic things, but that's all driven. There's 4 tiers to diversity, so you guys can write this down. The first tier is workforce. Within that, you have race, age, gender, creed, national origin. That's where we all have a tendency to focus. Workforce. But there's another tier that we have a tendency to forget about, but our society is driven. You guys, matter of fact, are brainwashed right here to think about diversity in reference to race. Isn't that the common trend? When somebody says diversity, that's the first thing we think of, race, right? Well, it's bigger than that. Matter of fact, race is such a small part of diversity, it's not even funny. Let me give you a scientific fact. scientifically speaking, I'm less than 1% different from you. Less than 1% different from you. What's really different about me? I think you said, what's your name right there behind you?
Pat.
Matt. I'm going to try and get everybody's name so when I call on you.
Pat.
Pat. All right. So Pat said it. Cultural, background or something to that effect. Well, it's your upbringing. That's the only thing that's different. I was just brought up different from you. But humanly speaking, I'm less than 1% different than you are. Why? If you cut me, I cut you, we bleed the same. We're made of one blood. That's it. But our upbringing and our diverse backgrounds and our encounters as we're brought up now creates the differences in how we see things, how we do things, how we respond to things. But society drives us to one tier only. They say race, they say age, they say gender. Well, there's another tier. It's called behavior. Diversity. Well, what's that? Do you guys all think the same? What about thinking styles? Everybody's different. Do you all communicate the same? No. How about communication styles? How about learning? Well, some are visual, some are more auditory, some people like to read, some people are hands-on. Learning styles. These are different behavioral traits as far as diversity, but they're just as important. Actually, matter of fact, they're more important than race, age. Because if I can adapt to how you learn, communicate, and think, guess what? We're going to get along pretty good. It has nothing to do with what color you are, how old you are, what your economic background is. Because we don't respond necessarily to those things. We can look at the color of the skin of a person or their age, but really we're saying, well, how could that guy or how could that gal think that way? That's what goes through our mind. Gosh, that guy's stupid. I would never do that in a million years. How could he think to do? See? How could he think? You're not worried about what color he is. How could he? That's stupid. And then you tell somebody, well, geez, can you communicate a little better? I didn't understand a word you said. That's what frustrates you. Not the color of their skin, but society says focus here. Okay? But this is a whole nother level. How you think, how you communicate, how you learn, behavior, because that dictates how people respond to you, get along with you. That's more critical than this. But this is a driver, so that's where we have a tendency to go. And that becomes the bottom line to all of our answers to our problems. And I would challenge you to think a little bit differently in reference to that. The next tier of diversity. How about structural? Structural diversity. You guys have two companies, right? Do they have the same function? Nope. Do you have certain teams and crews who work differently and have to work across other teams at times on a job where you might have, hey, we might have to do heating and cooling installation as well as plumbing, but we have to work together. Structural diversity, cross-functional teams. In the office, you have operations, you have a human resource. Well, they don't have the same function, but they got to cooperate together. Structural diversity, we forget about that because we have to align ourselves with the goal of the organization. Okay? And that's very, very important. What's the goal of affordable heating and cooling? Quiz question. You think you were going to get that one, didn't you?
Make it Brian money.
Stability.
Your goal here at Affordable Heating and Cooling is to provide superior products at an extraordinary cost. That's the goal. I knew that. I don't even work here. Well, I do today. And tomorrow and next week. And if he has me come back again. Provide superior products at an extraordinary cost. To be the best there is in the marketplace. Serving your marketplace from Anamosa to Springville to Monticello to however far you guys, Quad Cities, Illinois, however far you guys go out. Superior. Now, how do you connect to that goal? First of all, you got to know what it is. And then you got to connect to it. You got to align yourself to it, because if you're not aligned to it, this is diversity, by the way. If you don't align to the goal, then guess what? If you're not aligned to the values and the vision of the organization, you're working for somebody different. You're working for a different me. Yeah, we say we want to make Brian and Roger, whoever's the owner, Roger's the owner, just you, Brian. Yeah, Brian, to make him a lot of money. Well, it's not about him. Because guess what? He has to go to bed every night thinking about how he's going to keep you guys busy. You're going to keep your families fed and keep food on your table. That's not an easy task. That's a huge responsibility. And you think, well, geez, you know, he gets all the perks and all the benefits. No, it doesn't work that way. Because if this company gets sued, where's that money going to come from? It's going to come right off the bottom line. And when that happens, guess what? Jobs get lost. That's not easy to do. It's a huge responsibility. So you think, oh gosh, you know, I wish I owned my own company, make all the money, and versus making my wage. But there's a huge level of responsibility that comes with that. So, as an owner of the organization and what this company has to do, it has to have a vision, it has to have a goal, it has to have a plan, and then it has to have its employees aligned to that plan, that goal, that vision. Because when you come to work every day, now you're working for something. And that's critical. But this is the whole structural tier of diversity. I have to align to it. I have to align to something that's different from me. This is what being different means. This is the first point on your slide here. So I kind of tie it all together. So I'm going somewhere. So stay with me. You also pride yourselves with handling every customer with respect. And we're going to talk about that. Do you guys handle every customer with respect, especially those ones that you don't like?
Try.
You try. It's tough. It's tough, especially if something's not done right. Here's a clue. Customers, I'll say this with a grain of salt, are not always right. And you can't be afraid to tell them that they're not right in a professional manner. That's okay, because we were always trained to say customers are always right. No, they're not. No, they're not. It's not even fair to say. I will say this, customers that you serve are more educated. I understood to a point what these guys were doing at my house the other day. But in essence, I let them do their job, because when I try to give my input, oh, you should do this. No, that's not going to work. Okay, you know best. I took my seat as a customer, because I don't know everything there is to know about installing a heater and making sure the ventilation is properly run and it meets code. I don't understand that stuff. So customers don't always have it right. And you got to understand that, and it's okay to say, hey, you know what? If this isn't right, you're putting your name and guarantee behind it, aren't you? So it's okay for you to position yourself as the expert. Say, hey, ma'am, sir, I understand. But let me tell you, I'm putting my name and our guarantee with our company behind what we're doing through this installation. If it's not right, we're going to make it right. But they have to trust you. And most customers don't, especially if they're spending the kind of money they're spending. And knowing that they're on the clock when you arrive at their house. There's a bill that has to be paid. And most of them sometimes don't even pay you. That's another story. Structural diversity. Okay? And the last one is market. diversity. 4 tiers. Workforce, race, age, gender, sexual orientation, religion, behavior, how we think, how we learn, how we communicate, structural, how we work, cross-functional teams within an organization. Okay, you guys all have one goal. The last one, market. Did you know your customers are diverse and you can actually categorize every customer you serve in the marketplace? If you didn't know that, I'll show you how. You guys basically have 4 types of customers that you serve. There you go. The ones that pay and the ones that don't. Disc. You have the first one in your marketplace. That's a demanding customer. Right? They don't care about the details. They just want it done right. They're very demanding. I want you to be on time. Hey, you guys scheduled to be here at my house at 9:30 to do whatever. I expect you to be here at 9:30. If you're a minute late, that's going to dock what I'm going to pay you. They're very, very demanding. Well, you can't do that. Oh, you can't cut a hole in my wall. You're going to get my carpet. Oh, they're just, oh my gosh. It drives you nuts. But they're very demanding. That's the first type of customer. Okay? The next one is the influential customer. They love to be liked. And they will position themselves as they know a lot of people. So if you don't do the job right, they're going to tell everybody. And you hate those kind of people. Reputation is 99% by word of mouth on people's encounters. So when you're on a job site, and this is all part of diversity, be careful of the perceptions you paint for people, because it's their reality. Be careful of the perceptions you paint for people, because it's their reality. And if you're dealing with an influential customer, boy, if you don't do the job right, if you do the job well, boy, they're giving you 5 stars, they're giving you kudos, they're going to tell their neighbors, hey, you need to call these people because they do good work, and they're very influential. You like those kind of customers. But you also got to be careful of the flip side of the equation if you don't do a good job. They're going to drag your name through the mud. That is the worst company I've ever had. And I've seen some of those reviews on your organization. They're out there. You do the research, your reviews are out there. Some positive, some negative. But if you go into the market part of diversity and not understanding this, hey, number one, we can't please everybody. You can't. There's just no way. And if you try, you're going to bash your head against a brick wall. How many of you guys try and treat everybody equally? You can't. It's impossible. Why? Because you guys have all agreed that every single one of you are different. You can't. Let me give you an example of diversity. I have 8 kids. Nobody passed out. Good. I have 5 girls and 3 boys. Okay? And my wife, okay, she's the cornerstone of my home. I love her to death. But I have a 22-year-old, and I have an 11-year-old as far as the gap. Okay? My 22-year-old comes up and says, hey, Dad, I want to go to the mall with my friend. See you later. My 11-year-old comes up and says, Dad, I want to go to the mall with my friend. Wait a minute. I love them equally. But I cannot treat them the same because they're at different levels. Okay? It's no different here in your marketplace with diversity. You can treat everybody the same, the way you want to be treated. But you deal with everybody a little bit different. Because is one installation the same as another? No, they're all different, aren't they? Different issues, different challenges, and the type of customer you deal with is different. They're not the same. And so you have to be flexible. But in reference to this whole topic, my 11-year-old, hey, it's not about equality. The world will never be equal. Never. You all have a lot in life to deal with it. It won't be equal. That's where society has brainwashed our society in the workplace by driving everybody to equality. Remember I said earlier, civil rights versus human rights? Different terminology, different definitions on how we act and work and think. We're driven, people. We're guided. Okay? And that's where this stuff comes in. This is why we have the issues we have in the working environment. Because people don't really understand this concept. But diversity is not a matter of equality. It's a matter of fairness. So my 11-year-old, when you come of age, hey, I'll be fair. You come and ask me when you're 18, 19, you want to go to the mall? Go right ahead. That's fair. I love them equally, but I'm going to be fair. I can't treat them the same because they're not at the same place. Okay, as an example. The next one, we'll move on. Steady customer. And the last one, compliant. Boy, you love these customers. What's a steady customer? They're the type of people when you're on their side, when you're doing a job, they want to know how everything works. How you flip the switch, what that does when that happens, what's that sound when it makes that, and you have to explain every jot and tittle to that customer. Why? Because they like things to be steady. Hey, when I do this, you know, I had a nice water heater. I'm kind of that way. I'm a combination of probably all of these. Okay? I have these guys in my house, and I'm asking, okay, when I flip this switch, what happens? You flip this switch, okay, what does that do? How should I work this thing? What's this valve? What's that do? Walk me through it. Because if something happens, I need to be able to respond, and I can't always, even though you got it 24/7, I don't want to, necessarily spend that money maybe to have me come back out. I want to be intelligent enough to know what I'm doing. So those are the steady customers. And then you have the compliant customers, who've now done more research as you have as a journeyman to say, hey, this needs to be like this, that's not the code, why are you running that, why that shouldn't happen that way. Oh my goodness. You want my job? You get those types of customers. It's important to identify your marketplace, because now you know how to adopt. And I bet you all of you guys have encountered one or more, a combination of all of these types of customers. But you got to understand, what don't we consider as far as what being different means? Well, the owners envision expansion of the company resulting from three primary areas within the next 2 years. First, we foresee enlarging the core marketing area from Anamosa to include marketing and increased volume for Cedar Rapids metro area. Secondly, expansion of our customer base to include general contractors in need of new construction installation. Finally, with the growth of Anamosa, Springville, and Monticello areas, the customer base and need for quality heating and cooling companies will increase. How are you going to get there? How are you going to become the superior service to your market as far as heating and cooling and plumbing in this area? How are you going to get there? How are you guys going to grow? Any ideas? This is your vision.
Customer service.
Service. Quality. What else? How else are you going to get there?
Price.
Huh?
Lower price.
Overprice?
Lower.
Lower. Like, really, Brian? You're raking in the dough like that?
Reputation and how you treat people.
Reputation. Huh?
Services you provide.
Services, this is the same thing. Provide, okay?
Get the same product cheaper.
Product.
Okay.
Communication, advertising.
Communication, marketing. That's something that you guys aren't mentioning.
I'd say being able to adapt to all the things you're talking about.